Hey folks, so let's talk a little bit about Guardians and how I like them in this edition so far. So again, this is all potentially going to change when the Codex comes out, but for the most part, I think some of the aspects of the Guardians are going to stay the same. Hopefully they'll change the weapon platform around a bit, but we'll see. For the most part, you've got two different Guardians that you're going to be choosing from, either Storm Guardians or Guardian Defenders. In the past, Storm Guardians were usually used as a buffer or a Blade of Wounds around an avatar, for the most part, and they weren't the most effective, and they weren't the really the unit to go to. There were better units out there, but especially with the fact that you couldn't assault from a vehicle in the previous edition. So you didn't really see them on the table too much. Guardian Defenders, with how effective jet bikes were in the past, you didn't really see Guardian Defenders on the table too often, and if they were usually used in the background to hold down an objective and then use their heavy weapon platform with a Bright Lance or Star Cannon to harass or pick off units here and there. Now, I see their role has changed a little bit, although I've never really kept my Guardians in the back. I've always kind of pushed them forward to try and get as much damage out on units as possible. This is definitely the edition that you want to do this in because they are fast. They've got a 7-inch move with advance and battle focus, allowing them to shoot without any negatives after you've advanced is definitely effective. It is, there's so much pain you can bring down on units and be able to get these Guardians into positions that you really need them to get into. Compared to other units, troop-wise, they're definitely much more cost-effective, and they might not necessarily have the range of some of the other units, but they definitely can get into range very quickly. Now, of course, the option of upgrading to a heavy weapon platform is always something you want to take advantage of if you have the points, and then I would recommend sticking around with the Shuriken Cannon just to take advantage of battle focus, because you don't want to slow this unit down. You want it to get it up into range to be able to get as many Shuriken catapult shots on an enemy unit as possible, and really not you don't want to slow them down with just adding a more expensive heavy weapon on there. So stick with the Shuriken Cannon for now until potentially things change. One other nice thing about the heavy weapon platform is as a 3+ save, so if you really need some Guardians stick around and the weapons coming in are not necessarily high in AP or have any AP at all, you might want to look at taking them off there, but keep in mind you really want to weigh that depending on how you are going to be using your Guardians. One other thing's really nice is they have Sunburst Grenades, so when you're in really close, that D6 grenade is really nice at 6 inches because it has an AP on it. AP -1 is very important. How I'll run my Guardian Defenders, I'll usually add them in Wave Serpents, and I'll usually run 3 of them. 3 groups of them, and backed up with a Farseer for either Guide and Fortune, or Guide and Doom, or Fortune and Doom, depending on the type of enemies I'm going up against. But for the most part, Guide and Doom are just a dream for these guys. Run them up, you bring up your vehicles, do all the shooting you can, get your guys out, advance them, and then shoot, and there are units that are just going to evaporate, especially if you get Doom on there and you start rolling into some 6s, it just melts units. It's really quite satisfying seeing these little potters and musicians go out there and wreak havoc. One other thing to say about the Guardian Defenders is you want to get them up, get them into the action as in mid-range of the game as best you can. Don't want to do it too quick because that 5+ save, they don't last very long. So use your vehicles, soak up some shots, fire off your weapons, your serpent shields, get your guys out, get them up there, and then just destroy stuff. So that's definitely one thing I would say about the Guardian Defenders, and I've said actually quite a few things about them. Talking about the Storm Guardians, they're pretty cost effective too. They have their place. I will bring a unit of them backing up my 3 Guardian Defenders and usually using them as either a little tar pit for a round or 2, or just in hopes to kind of get them into a position to do some assaulting and stuff. You can put either 2 fusion guns or 2 flamers, which I really like adding the flamers on there because the auto hits, you don't have to worry about how many shots. You don't have to worry about extra rolls. It's so important to get either auto hits in there or as many dice on the table as possible. Now, when we're talking about their close combat weapons, they've got the Shuriken Pistol, which is decent, strength 4, and then the potential for AP on there. You've got your Eldari blades. the Storm Guardians only have one attack, so the Eldari blades are decent for the fact that you can get rerolls for those failed misses, but if you really need those extra attacks, you can spend the money and get chain swords, and they can all get chain swords and get an additional attack, but it's not as cost effective as they could be. I would probably go with Guardian Defenders over these guys myself, but they definitely have their place. They can get in there, they can cause a little bit of damage. You can add power swords on them, but it's not effective points wise. You've got a strength 3 guy going there with a power weapon that's pretty expensive, and you can only do 2 of them, so really there are better units out there. They do have a sunburst grenade, which is kind of nice, so tossing those in when you really get close is decent and important, but for the most part they're really a support unit. Go out there, add a little bit of extra damage in the assault, and then hopefully not get wiped out in the next turn. But they have their place. Overall, I like my Guardians. I like my Guardian Defenders. Get out there. They're very effective getting up into the enemy's face, causing a lot of damage all at once. Hoping for those Rens or the Blade Storm to come into effect as much as possible, and that's where your Farseer is going to come into play with using Doom and Guide and stuff. So overall, Guardians, really like them in this edition. They're very cost effective. Guardian Defenders, definitely really good in comparison to some of the other troop units. The Storm Guardians, not quite as effective as other close combat units, but they definitely have their place because they are very cost effective in comparison to some others. So overall, how have you guys been using your Guardians? What are some thoughts on how you've been using them? Again, 10 Guardian Defenders, put them in a Wave Serpent. Throw in a heavy weapon platform with a shuriken cannon. If you can get a Farseer in there, go forth and destroy. And then, of course, your poor little Storm Guardians, do what you will with them. They have their place, and I definitely wish you luck if you do use a lot of them. I've only used about 10 to 20 so far, and I wouldn't really go more than that because you start cutting into some important points for other units within your army. So anyways, with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I look forward to hearing what you guys think of these 2 units, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.